I'm glad you let me do that because I have to do that tomorrow for another meeting. So
yeah, and anytime you need to share host, like if you have to leave and you're the host, you can delegate your hosting responsibilities. Yeah.
Nice. All right. Okay. I'm going to mute.
Okay.
And maybe do you want everyone else to mute so that you can just kind of go?
Yeah. We'll if you have questions, we'll check the chat box or raise your hand, and Grace and I will be going back and forth on the monitoring of that. There's no such thing as a bad question, but we are going to kind of power through this. And it is being recorded, so it will be shared with you all again. That way, if there's something we've gone through that you have questions on or want to hear it again, then you'll be able to do that. We won't have the recording available until tomorrow. So with that being said, I'm going to do a share screen. And okay, can everybody see that is with me on the camera?
Yep.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. My name is Erica Thiel, and I am a 4-H program specialist with the University of Idaho 4-H Youth Development Program. And my co-presenter for this evening, and I'll take the liberty of introducing her, is Grace Whitman. She is extension educator from Cassia County, and she is also your adult rep for District 3. You'll be seeing me with the public speaking contest and the reporter workshop. But tonight we're going to do our first part, if you will, of the adult orientation and kind of go through some things that will help you out for your upcoming adventure at Teen Conference. So our agenda for our meeting for tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about roles and kind of who's doing what. We'll definitely be talking about conference policies and risk management. We'll talk about the protocol for accidents, and part of that too will be kind of the emergency plan. So if there's something that happens where we need to meet as a group, you'll have information about that. We'll touch on the service learning project that we'll be doing for this year. We'll provide an overview of the conference for those that may not have been to the Teen Conference. We'll kind of give you an idea, the lay of the land, if you will. And then we'll cap up tonight's presentation with some questions and answers. And like I had just mentioned a little bit ago, there's no such thing as a bad question. So if there are questions, for those that are with us tonight, feel free to post those questions in the chat box. We'll keep an eye on that. I think there's also a raise your hand function too. But a big piece where regarding our roles is kind of rooted in the foundation of what we do in youth development programs. The Big M is a word acronym for what researchers consider critical components for youth learning, and that is belonging, independence, generosity, and mastery. With our Teen Conference program and in 4-H programs, we need to reassure youth and help youth know that they are cared for by others, that they do feel a sense of connection to the others that are in the group. And it's really important that we provide not only the physical safety, but emotional safety. So you're going to hear us say this a couple times tonight, but bullying, any sort of harassment has no place at this conference or any of our programs that we do in 4-H. Teen Conference provides youth an opportunity to spread their wings, and it really helps them feel that they have a voice and can actually take action on whatever topic, be it something personal for them in the work that they're doing in 4-H or way that they can contribute to their communities. And you're going to see over the course of next week a big evolution in the youth that you're going to be working with. And it's not just the youth that you chaperone, or if you're in collegiate staff, you know, the roles that you're going to be working with. It's pretty amazing. You'll see youth come in, especially first-time delegates, and you kind of have the deer in the headlights look. And that independence really starts to kind of sink in with the kids. They really get a sense of who they can be, and it really helps to encourage them to step out of the shell a little bit. It's a pretty unique opportunity for kids to come together statewide. Some of them may have met each other at different conferences or different 4-H opportunities, but this conference really gives the youth a chance to kind of connect, not only with others within their district, but statewide, like I mentioned, but we're giving them a really good introduction kind of on what things are like at the University of Idaho as well. There's a very strong sense of community on the campus. It's a very close-knit campus, and while it's summer in Moscow, it's a great opportunity. So I'm really excited that you guys are going to be joining us next week for this. Through the Teen Conference Week, youth are given opportunities to develop and reflect upon thoughts and responsibilities and challenges and things that we kind of pose to the youth. And we really put a lot on our officers and our planning committee to kind of really push that envelope of educational experiences, if you will. So we really take that whole experiential learning meaning to heart. The youth are going to be doing some leadership. They're going to be doing some educational components, and they definitely take a leadership role in serving as the face of this conference. But we want the youth participants to feel secure to respond to the challenges and to rise to the occasion, and you'll see that they will in spades. It's a pretty amazing process. Like I said, we're going to be introducing youth to a wide array of expert knowledge on campus. So from an educational standpoint, prospective student standpoint, you can't get any better than actually being able to go and explore a collegiate campus, engaging in some of the workshops with the college professors that are going to be presenting that. We also have extension educators presenting content over the course of the week. And it's really that information and working with those experts, that kind of, and the way we frame it in Teen Conference, it really helps add to the toolbox. So while there's a lot of fun to be had, and we're going through a wide array of educational content, it's all rooted very firmly in the educational roots of Extension and the educational institution of the University of Idaho. So we do have a method to the madness, if you will. So our big push is to make sure that we deliver quality programs, and this is definitely one of the hallmarks of our programming that we do with U of I and 4-H. Overall, with the big M, we're trying to incorporate or provide opportunities for youth to broaden their perspective. And a big key with what they're doing at Teen Conference is taking the information that they get at this experience and bringing it back and sharing that with their communities. So we really want to encourage participants to engage in their communities, share this information with other members, and it really reaps and benefits for us as far as word of mouth advertising. They bring their friends back, they share that information, and so that cycle has to kind of continue. We keep building this conference. Yes, we've made changes to it, but it all comes together in the roots of what we do in our program. For Teen Conference, while we all are given individual assignments and we have our individual roles, we all contribute to the big picture. And so we have to kind of take ourselves out of, well, it's just my kids. You know, I'm just watching these kids that I'm assigned to. We have to watch all of the kids. While we are going to be on University of Idaho campus, we need to make sure we keep our eyes open, ears open, we listen and we communicate, and definitely encourage. A lot of these kids are going to be first-time participants, so this may be their first time away from home, first statewide 4-H experience. They may not know all of the 4-H lingo as well. We do have participants at teen conference that are not 4-H members. So it's really important that we encourage and provide that courage for those members to really immerse themselves, be present in what we're doing, and that helps them find their way with this conference. It can be a little overwhelming. So some of the things you're going to see that first night, a reluctance to engage. Depending on the length of the bus ride, they may be very, very tired. They may be very dehydrated. It never fails during teen conference. It tends to be very hot. So there may be complaints of headache. We need to make sure everybody's getting good sleep and staying hydrated. But if there's something wrong, we also need to listen. So as far as adults go, you know, while we have different roles in YESM state staff, we're all here for the common good. So if you hear something or see something, by all means, I mean, nothing should be unturned. There's no such thing as a bad question. So we will all have name badges on. We are clearly identifiable. Don't hesitate to ask a question. Or if you see a child and maybe in a different district or something is going on, let Shanna and I know. If state staff are handy, or if you see adult advisors or extension faculty from other districts, say something. Don't just ignore it. It's better to be safe than sorry. We can demonstrate through our behaviors good hygiene, keeping our room clean, getting good sleep, staying hydrated. They'll embody that. And they all also look to you collegiate staff folks as far as, well, what are they doing? They'll look to that. You guys, what you say and do, they will follow. So it's really important that we provide that encouragement. We do that embodiment and that role modeling. But it's important for us to encourage each other as well. So that sleep and hydration piece really comes into play in the overall communication. And we need to keep that throughout the whole entire week of teen conference. We do have a wide variety of adult roles at teen conference. We have collegiate staff, we have state staff, we have adult advisors or chaperones. We will have extension faculty and staff that will be engaging in a wide variety of different ways, be it teen conference reps, presenting workshops. We may have some faculty there with us throughout the duration, staying in the dorms. Some faculty and staff may come in for a day, some may come up with the bus. So there's a wide variety of ways folks are going to be coming in and out of the conference. And we also have adults engaged on the planning team as well. So one thing to kind of keep everybody identified, it's absolutely paramount that we wear our name badges, and we'll touch on that as well. But as adults, we're all in this together. Okay.
All right. So where will we be staying? We'll be staying in the tower dorms like we have in the past. So if you've been there, it's just like it's always been. Some things to know about the dorms. Our outside doors do lock at 11:30 p.m. So no one comes in after that point. Quiet hours are after 11:30 p.m. So we encourage everyone to only use telephones in emergencies after that time, because we really want to encourage our delegates to get proper rest. So they need to, unplug, relax, go to bed, and we kind of need to do the same because otherwise we can get pretty worn down as adults. No delegates are allowed in the rooms or on the floors of the opposite sex between 11 p.m. and noon. You must keep the room assigned at registration. And we did have this brought up actually at another meeting here the other day, and it is highly encouraged that there is no room switching around. The university needs to know who's in each room, and if we start switching around, that doesn't work so well in an emergency. So those need to stay the way that they are assigned. Name badges must be worn at all times. This is not only for our kids' safety, but for everyone's. We will have another group staying in the dorms with us this year on the upper level floors. So we are going to want to pay attention to those name badges, make sure who is our kids and who's not. And if you see kids who are not ours getting into any trouble or doing anything they shouldn't be doing, you just need to contact a state staff member or a planning team member, and we can deal with those situations as they come up. You do need to turn in room keys on Thursday, June 30th. If those room keys are not turned in, it is a $60 fee, so we don't want to lose any of those. Let's see here if there's anything else we need to go over that we won't go over later. I think that's it for that slide. All right, so some situations that could come up. You never want to be alone with a delegate. If you're in a one-on-one situation, make sure you're in full view of other people. That is for your safety as well as the youth. Don't allow delegates to enter private staff areas such as your dorm room. Okay, if you need to meet with some delegates or a delegate, we prefer that you do that in the common areas of the floors. They do usually have a lounge area, so that would be better because then it's an open area that hopefully everyone can see what's happening. You do want to keep alert. Like I said, we'll have other people in the dorms with us, as well as we'll be sharing the campus with everyone, college students, other camps, all of that. So just be aware of what's going on and who are our kids. Ask before offering a hug or physically touching someone. And so we'll kind of talk a little bit more about that here in just a little bit. Something to keep in mind, Erica kind of touched on this a minute ago, but being a good listener, really listen to the kids. It takes time, and you need to keep the conversation going long enough. If you come into a situation where you notice the kids aren't feeling well, or they're just maybe a little more reserved, finding out why that could be happening is important. Maybe they're just a little homesick. Maybe we need to find them a friend. maybe they're having a hard time. So by listening and paying attention to what's going on around them and around you, you can help make some of those kids have a much better time at team conference. Okay. Here's a scenario. You're doing a workshop with a team leader of the opposite gender, and they ask you to come into their room for a second to look at a workbook with the activity in it. Is this appropriate or inappropriate? Well, it's a little bit of both. It can be appropriate as long as it's between the hours that it's okay to have the opposite gender on your floor, and you keep your door wide open. However, it would be much more appropriate to take that to an open common area. So that would be my suggestion if you're dealing with the opposite sex. But at the same time, I do know that it's sometimes easy just to walk in, look at something, and walk back out. So as long as that door is open and it's during the appropriate time. Another one, you make friends with a group of boy and girl delegates and decide to take a walk to a part of campus where you are alone with the delegates out of public view. Is this appropriate or inappropriate? Again, it happens, especially like if we have kids who are tired at the dance and they want to go back to the dorms. Sometimes we only have one adult to take them back, in which case you want to make sure that there's lots of them with you, and that there's plenty of communication. There's other adults that know what you're doing. There's staff that knows what you're doing. You are taking this group of kids back to the dorms, and somebody also knows who those kids are. So that way we don't lose track of anyone. Okay, so that would be how that would work. Okay.
Okay. Any questions on those on our roles? Anything we covered on any of that? The big piece, it all boils down to communication and listening. But like Grace said, with the scenarios, The communication plan, don't put yourself into a situation where you be one-on-one, or don't do something without telling somebody about what you're doing with a group of children. You will find times where you are going to be asked to take kids to and from or shuttling around, but just as long as everybody's on the same page, we're good. A big piece of our conference policies and risk management, especially with teen conference, really revolves around transportation. There will be situations, and there may be situations where we need to have transportation. You need to contact a teen conference planning committee adult, or Shanna or myself, period. Youth are not allowed to transport anybody on campus. They are not allowed to go. In fact, their keys should be checked in to us if they did drive themselves. Everybody that's coming to teen conference will be coming via bus. So if there are things that we need to do where transportation is concerned, let somebody on the teen conference planning committee know. Adults, youth may not transport others, whether it's a youth peer or older people, or being adults during the conference. And participants are expected to stay on campus and remain at teen conference through the duration of the event. So what does this mean? Does this mean mom is coming to campus and wants to take their child? No, unless if there's been way in advance notice and arrangements made specifically with Shanna. She's been the main person with taking our registration information and processing that. The answer is going to be no. They need to stay at teen conference. They need to stay at the dorms. They may have family in Moscow. They are part of the conference. They also need to be identifiable. So the name badges, they will get those as soon as they come in off the buses. They need to have their name badges on them at all times. Keys would be a close second to that. And more often than not, those keys are attached right to their lanyards along with their meal cards. Health. We do have accidents at teen conference. We do have or have had youth that get sick. It's really important to be observant as a chaperone, and you'll be able to see in the morning. We really want to encourage the kids to get a good start to their day. It's a long time between their first meal to their second meal, and it may not be a big deal. They think with that first night, oh, we rode the bus, this, that, I don't need to have breakfast. They need to eat their meals. There's a wide variety of food offerings at Bob's and the different meals that we are going to provide during the week, but it's really important. Do we have snacks on a fairly regular basis, Shanna, or is it pretty much the meals that they get is the main meal offerings during the day?
Yeah, the main meals are going to be during the day. We do have like one one snack, but for the most part, they're going to need to eat what's offered during the mealtime. If it would be, if our chaperones want to encourage the kids to bring snacks that they could carry around with them, that would be a good, choice if they'd like to. They'll have registration bags that they can stick snacks into and have them if they need them.
So one thing we will be providing for the conference are water bottles. We're hoping we will have some Sharpies available at registration. We want to encourage everybody to write their name on their water bottles, but the water bottles do no good when they're left in the room. So the use of the backpack and actually using their water bottle and refilling it is going to be really critical. And if the weather is going to be as hot as they say it's going to be, along with all the physical activity, it's a hilly campus, there's going to be a lot of walking. So the hydration and meal piece really gets to be critical, especially about 7 o'clock at night. If a child hasn't eaten, they got a headache cooking, probably tired, probably really hungry, although they would probably say that they're not hungry. So we need to really watch them and really encourage everybody, just follow that schedule, go to meals when they're offered. Definitely stay hydrated. The first aid room is in room 108. We are still working on identifying who our conference nurse is going to be. That will be announced at our adult orientation meeting. You're going to get their name, their cell phone number. So if there's an emergency, you'll be able to handle that. And we'll touch on emergency procedures here in a little bit. We do want to role model behaviors, like I mentioned before, hygiene, sleep, and water intake. And we also want to encourage no horseplay. We have had insurance claims during, now this is during district competitions, but we have had leg injuries, we've had concussions. They're going to be doing physical activities. There's a time and place for that. There's structured activities. Horseplay is not a structured or appropriate activity. We want to discourage that. There's a lot of opportunities where people could get really hurt. If they're doing horseplay on the steps leading into the tower, it's concrete. That's not very forgiving. So we do want to embody that. If we do have somebody that's hurt, you're going to communicate that with the nurse, but you're also going to want to let Shanna or myself know. We will have the insurance paperwork for that. The nurse will have a bag. You'll have those paperwork pieces as well, but Shanna and I need to be kept in the loop. So we know we're going to anticipate paperwork. We also need to know if the injury is serious enough where it warrants transportation to let's for say an example, Gritman Medical Hospital. So we need to be kept in the communication loop on that. No person should administer medicine or first aid with the exception of our nurse. That's why we have that nurse. They are the person designated for doing those pieces of health. And if there's questions on that, let us know. But anything that's pertaining to a child's health, if it's a pre-existing condition that requires medication, that type of thing, those elements should have been communicated in the registration materials. If there's questions or concerns by a child, let's say maybe they didn't disclose that, they need to visit with Shannon, with the nurse. That's a very important piece of information that may flesh itself out on the bus ride, but if those things come to rise in your conversations with members, please let us know. Let's see. Keeping it simple. We can, as adults, get into a quagmire of rules, and we keep it pretty simple. It's our first and foremost rule is respect. Respect the rules. We do have conference policies, being that we're on the University of Idaho campus for this event. We do fall under university policies, and we definitely have policies and procedures for 4-H, and those are still applicable for this and each and every 4-H event that we offer. But we respect the space and place. So no yelling outside the windows, no damaging or destructive things in the towers, because we will get charged for that. And depending on the scope and the severity of the damage, the parents probably get charged for that too. But first and foremost, we also want to respect each other, and that we have to respect ourselves. So if there's, I don't know, I found it to be a very effective rule. If there's questionable behaviors that you need to have a conversation with somebody about, you can bring it back to the respect, and that works for all ages very well. But it's important that we stay consistent with that respect piece, because the youth can grab onto that, they understand that, and when we keep that in frame, the youth respond to that in a very positive manner. They understand how you're going to tie that back to their behavior. They may or may not use that deductive reasoning when they make a decision, but you know, it helps keep things very manageable without having to blow up. You can have a conversation, have them understand what was right or wrong, but we need to keep it positive as far as their overall experience. And you know, if things happen to where we need to have conversations that are a little difficult, then we're prepared to handle those. And if there is something that happens, you know, again, you need to keep your teen conference planning committee adults in the loop, and that goes as well for Shannon and myself. Teen conference is a no bullying zone. We have a zero tolerance for that. It's statistically, they say 2.7 million youth are affected by bullying. I think that number's higher. I think with social media and technology and the pervasiveness of cyberbullying, it's gotten to a point where children do not feel safe. They can't get away from cyberbullying. And while we have times where it's appropriate to use their phones for social media, by far and away, they're going to be having, you know, class time. They're going to be interacting with each other. So we want to be cognizant, observant of those behaviors. And there is a bullying or difference between bullying and teasing. Bullying is aggressive. It's an intentional behavior, and it is typically repeated repeated over time. Forms of bullying: hitting, kicking, spitting, excessive tickling, teasing, name calling, intentionally getting somebody into trouble, spreading rumors, telling lies, or deliberately isolating somebody. Taking or stealing things from someone is bullying. Forcing someone to do something that they do not want to do, sexual harassment, and as I mentioned before, e-bullying or cyberbullying. So what is the difference between bullying and teasing? It all really boils down to power. Person is bullied has a really hard time defending themselves. The bullier wants to exude their power and that perceived power that they are in control of that person. If we can create that positive atmosphere that we establish, we don't have a tolerance for bullying, we create an inclusive environment, and we are basically demonstrating those cohesive, respectful behaviors, it does help shape the atmosphere that we want. And we want that to be a cooperative and fun experience for everybody. Sexual harassment of any form is not allowed. We have a very detailed sexual harassment policy with the University of Idaho. We also have outlines on that in our University of Idaho 4-H policies and procedures, which is posted on our website. And that link to the policies and procedures is in our resources at the end of our slides here. And I will have a copy of the slides posted, but you will see that here in a little bit. All right, Grace, major infractions of policy.
Okay. All delegates and adult staff will be treated with dignity and respect and as capable human beings. Participants are expected to participate fully in all activities. Okay, we need to be encouraging that. Delegates and adult advisors are responsible for knowing and complying with the conference regulations and policies. All regulations and policies are stated in the conference application packet or handed out at the time of registration. So you will get a copy of all of those when you go through the registration line. As well as, like Erica said, you can look up stuff ahead of time if you want through the resources we have at the end of this. Minor problems will be handed by the extension faculty or adult advisor in charge. In case of major infractions of regulations, the delegates will be brought before the disciplinary committee, which is composed of state 4-H staff, extension faculty, or adult advisor in charge, and then the 4-H Teen Association president. If it is necessary to send a delegate home, it will be at the parent's expense. Believe it or not, this has come about before. Some examples of these major infractions would be throwing any object from the dorm windows, leaving the campus, the UI campus teen conference without state 4-H office permission, setting off fire alarms in a non-emergency, riding in a vehicle not supervised or driven by conference adult advisor or state 4-H staff, illegal use of drugs or alcohol, possession or in the presence of firearms or explosives, and participating in sexual relations. So these are our major infractions. And obviously the one that's not really on here was the bullying one. So that would also be considered a major infraction if someone was bullying another delegate, then they would probably be sent at home at their parents' expense. So those are just things to keep in mind. Okay, sexual harassment. So in order to be a certified volunteer, you are required to complete the Protecting Minors training, which touched on University of Idaho sexual harassment policy. It is our task to create a safe environment for youth who are participating in our programs, including Teen Conference. So what is sexual harassment? Unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, and other verbal physical conduct of a sexual nature are considered sexual harassment when they are the condition for participation in the 4-H activity or event. Submitting to or rejecting the behavior is used as a basis for decisions affecting an individual, and the behavior has the purpose or effect of unreasonably interfering with an individual's work, performance, or participation in activities and events, or the behavior creates an offensive, hostile, or intimidating working, learning, or volunteer environment. So there's your sexual harassment. If you have more questions on that, you can refer to policies and procedures. Some examples of these would be unwelcome patting, hugging, touching, sexual innuendos, jokes, or comments. So be sure that any type of joke you might say could not be sexual in any way or derogatory. Making sexual gestures with hands or through body movements, whistling at someone or catcalls, unwanted letters, gifts, materials of a sexual nature. So, in other words, just don't do those things. Some scenarios. A delegate tells you they have a problem with another delegate, so you tell them to solve it themselves. Not probably the appropriate way to deal with this. For one, I would need to know a lot more details on this situation. So that's where that communication and listening really comes in. What's going on here? Why do they have a problem with that delegate? I mean, they are teenagers. Sometimes it's just kids being kids, and sometimes it's not. So we really have to be careful and really listen to what's going on and pay attention to what's happening around the youth during this conference. Okay, you have a hard time with names, so you decide to give each delegate on your floor a nickname. Not appropriate. For one, you don't know your delegates that well. You don't know if you start calling some blonde girl Blondie, if that's going to offend her or not. So you need to just refrain from nicknames, learn their names, or you can just be very polite and just say, "So what was your name again?" until you learn it. But don't give them nicknames. That's probably not the best way to go about that.
Okay, emergencies. So with the registration process, be it through 4-H Online and through the UI portal for our non-4-H participants, we have a list of participant names, and the chaperone names and contact information has been provided to Vandal Alert. So if there is a major event, something that we have no way of telling with our magic wands that was going to happen, and it is university related, we will be contacted by the university campus security emergency team. They have a whole protocol on how to handle unforeseen emergencies. And so that is something to be aware of. If the event should arise where we need to evacuate the building for either a fire alarm or for whatever reason, there is our rendezvous spot as a conference is the parking lot at the Student Rec Center. You need to make sure that you reiterate this at every district or every floor meeting, and this information will be included in the conference packets as well. If there is a fire, you should have a list in your packet, the list of all of your delegates on your floor and from your county with room numbers. So it's really important when you evacuate the building, work with the other adults in your floor on how you want to handle that, whether it's you take the ones you're responsible for or sections of the hallway, educate yourselves to where the fire exits are, and the alternate routes. Those are posted in the doors and in the hallways of the tower. So that would be a good exercise to do on your first floor meeting. And make sure the rooms have a working smoke detector and that your exit routes are unobstructed. So really work with those youth when they're getting settled in to keep everything picked up, keeping those hallways clean. So that way, if something happens, that's one less thing you guys have to trip over. In this event of a storm, we will be monitoring the weather. And if a storm watch is notified or issued, you will be notified. If a storm is imminent, appropriate shelter should be sought immediately. So that would be inside a building, not under a tree. You want to keep your group within the designated safe area until an all clear announcement is provided by the extension professionals. I think we have everybody's cell phone numbers, so we probably send out a group text in that type of a situation. We'll make sure we have everybody's cell phone numbers or figure out whether we just work with our key district contacts and then disseminate that way. But you will be given an all clear for that. We will be doing, as part of our service learning project, a poverty simulation. We will need 30 volunteers. Do we still need 30 volunteers, Shanna, or where are we at on the head count for that? Do you want me to unmute you? I'm trying to. I don't know if I can. I don't think I'm the host. Well, so we're doing a poverty simulation, and this is going to be part of our service learning project. Delegates are going to be working through a couple different scenarios. And they're going to be doing different roles of a family living in poverty. And so part of this is a discovery for the delegates to learn the difficult choices and challenges families that are living in poverty make on a daily basis. Having gone through the simulation is very powerful. You may experience youth getting kind of frustrated with the process. We just need to stick to our roles. There will be, for the 30 volunteers that are needed for this, a training for those roles. It's going to be an hour, so that will be an hour before the simulation itself starts, and that will be Thursday. If you are interested in volunteering for this poverty simulation, let Shanna know. But it's going to be awesome. There's a variety of different roles. So we work either in a school role, daycare, a bank, pawn shop, utilities, the jail. So there's a lot of different services within the community, if you will, that this family could theoretically touch on a given day. Oh,
sorry. Yeah, sorry, I apologize for that. My screen was down below and I couldn't find it. So just to expand on that, we do have enough volunteers for this already. I did sign up all of the college staff for this, and I signed up all of the planning team adults for this. I didn't sign up the chaperones, the adult chaperones for this, because we will need the adult chaperones to be moving the youth from the dorm, from breakfast in the morning to the simulation. So I didn't sign up any chaperones for this particular event. So we will need, though, for the adult chaperones to be facilitating the groups over, and then kind of making sure that they're monitoring that the kids are participating, and definitely being able to just kind of walk around and observe and watch the process. It's pretty cool simulation. So.
And there is a process to it. So they need to give it time to let it work. They need to read the instructions. They will get instructions on the overall picture. They'll have packets, and the family packets, I think, are different. So they'll break the youth up into family groups, I think is how that goes. But the youth really need to keep an open mind, and they need to let the process work. We need to really be careful not to just say, okay, you don't need to do it. You need to just let it ride. And it'll all make sense. And I know that's very abstract right now, but it is a very cool experience. So you just need to let it ride. Part of the service learning project is a food drive part of it's during teen conference, but prior to. So for the youth or for community groups or the districts, if you've done food drives, receipt of donated items to your county food bank can be brought in. Depending where you've made your donation, they should be able to provide you a weight. So bring that receipt. If not, if you haven't started that process yet, bring non-perishable food items to teen conference, and we'll have boxes for you to put that in when we do the check-in. If you do have questions on that, let Shannon know, but that should be pretty straightforward. A big kind of overview. So there will be a schedule that is handed out. We have our tentative schedule at this point. You're going to want to read through that, become familiarized with that. You're going to want to look for the teen conference schedule. You will want to read that and you will want to study it. Now go so far as folding it into a shape that fits with your name badge. And it may look a little abused by the end of the week, but you want to keep that on you as pretty much at all times, because you're going to be referencing it all the time. The adult meeting will be at 3 p.m. on Monday, June 27th. So when we get in, that's pretty much an all hands on deck, unless you have other arrangements or you've got other duties you're attending to, like Miss Grace. But we'll be seeing you there. So we'll really go through the schedule day by day. There are various assignments. So in some of these assignments, there is a whole assignment sheet, but it will flesh out who assembly helpers are, speech contest, hosts and hostesses. We also do dorm checks during that week. So you'll see your name, and it's a really good piece to look at that assignment sheet too when you first get in, because it goes through the whole week. Those assignments kind of are event specific or things that are going on throughout the day. And maybe something that you've signed up for. But with the case, like with the dorm checks, we kind of rotate that through everybody. So, and if you have questions on that, let us know, but we will definitely be going through that in detail at the adult meeting. We have a wide variety of resources that went into this. A lot of it is the ins and outs, working with risk management, human harassment, or human rights policies. I definitely would recommend, if you have questions on 4-H specific policies, to look at the policies and procedures. That's the second bullet point. Is right on our website under documents and records, and also some tips from camping. But while we go through all this, and there's a lot, and I'm sure there's a lot of questions, we really try to put this all out front, some things for you to consider. We want you to definitely have a great time. I'm really looking forward to seeing everybody next week. Can't believe it's here already. But I'll go ahead, for those of us that are on the call, are there any questions? We really hit that rapid fire, but it really covers the nuts and bolts of what we need you guys to do during the week. And like I said, at the adult orientation, we will be going through more of conference-specific things, kind of really getting you the lay of the land for the week. But this is more big picture. Okay, this is really putting that whole adult advisor role, collegiate staff role, a little bit outside of the box. Bigger picture. We're all in this together. So I'll turn it over to questions if you have any. Or any comments?
I got one question though.
Sure.
Now, are we supposed to be there on the 27th or the 25th? Because on one of the papers I read, it says we have to be there on the 25th, 2 days in advance. Is that correct? Or no?
I'll let Shannon.
Yeah, so I'll answer that. Thanks for asking that question, Matthew. I want to make sure that we clarify. So the chaperones are going to be coming up with the youth on the 27th, but our college staff are going to need to be there on the 25th. So
Okay.
you need
I'm making sure of that.
Yeah, so need you guys to be there a little bit early so that you can help us kind of get all planned and help us get it organized before the big day. So.
Okay, so what time do we have to be there? I wasn't very quite sure on that.
Okay, so how about we would like you guys to be there by 5, if possible.
Okay. All right.
By dinner time.
Good. All right. I was just making sure.
Yeah, no problem.
Question about that.
That's good.
Other
No,
than
it's
that, I have
good.
no question.
Yeah, it's good because I want people to be able to for everybody to know, since we're going to be putting this out there. So thank you, Matthew.
Oh, no problem.
Any other questions? All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.